I found a very interesting book by Carl Menninger, who was an American psychologist. And he wrote, for example, the love and hate. And love and hate insist that the love and hate should be balanced. That suggests that stronger sympathetic nervous system is dangerous. Stronger parasympathetic nervous systems are dangerous. So the balance between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous systems are very important. So the love and hate should be balanced. Not only love is dangerous, not only hate is dangerous. So harmonize the situation between love and hate is human duty.
This idea of hate being important, balance of love and hate.
Yes.
I think many Buddhists are very attracted to the idea of just love and love. We don't want to have any hate.
So the Carl Menninger said, only love is very dangerous. Only hate is very dangerous.
Why is love dangerous? Because we think love must be wonderful.
Because it is relaxation. Therefore, relying upon relaxation, it is rather difficult for us. Sometimes we make our efforts. So such kind of relaxed situation should not be extreme. So the relaxation and tension, those two factors should be equal or balanced. That is the true situation.
All right, thrill seekers, that was a video of me talking to my teacher Gudo Wafu Nishijima Roshi, and he's talking about love and hate. And this is a video I should have put up yesterday on Valentine's Day, but I didn't think of it until yesterday on Valentine's Day, so here it is today. And first, I want to read to you a couple of pieces where he says kind of the same things he said in that video, but it's written and it's been edited by somebody who speaks English, so it sounds a little bit less rough than what you just heard. So here goes. When I was young, I had a chance to read two books by an American psychiatrist named Carl Menninger. One was called Man Against Himself, the other was called Love and Hate. Man Against Himself explains the psychology of a person who commits suicide. The author says that a person who commits suicide is not a weak person, but usually a very strong and aggressive person. But for some reason, when his or her aggressive attack against others fails, his or her attack is directed against himself or herself. And when I read this description, I had to agree with Dr. Menninger's opinion. However, in Love and Hate, Carl Menninger insisted that if we want to be healthy in body and mind, it is necessary for us to maintain love and hate equally. Before that time, I had been taught that only love is valuable and hate should be avoided. But when I read Dr. Menninger's idea, it was impossible for me to disagree with his opinion. And here is something else that appears in a printed lecture that he gave. And again, I think this has been edited by somebody who speaks English. Here we go. An American psychiatrist called Carl Menninger wrote a book in which he explained the relationship between love and hate, in which he insisted that hate and love should be balanced. And when I read that theory, I noticed that the middle way that Gautama Buddha proclaimed is exactly related with the state of balance between the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. We can interpret that when our sympathetic nervous system is stronger than our parasympathetic nervous system, we are prone to have a hateful tendency, and that when our parasympathetic nervous system is stronger than our sympathetic nervous system, we are prone to love easily. In his theory, Cardinal Menninger seems to be insisting that a state of hate is not always natural, and a state of love is not always natural. And he also seems to insist that extreme hate is not so healthy, and extreme love is not so healthy. Therefore, I think that the reverence of the balanced state of the autonomic nervous system, where we are not prone to hate too much or love too much, may be the fundamental basis of Buddhist theory, and that such a theory of balance has enormous power to solve almost all human, personal, and societal problems in the world today. That is a big claim, and Nishijima Roshi was very good at making big claims. So, as you can see, if you watched the video of me talking to him, I was at the time kind of struggling with this idea. I think at that point I'd kind of got what he was saying, but the way he said it was different from how I'd put it. So he liked to talk about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems and the balance between them. And I think he says pretty much his whole shtick on that in the quote I just read to you. I don't generally use the terminology that Nishijima Roshi used about the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And the reason is because when I was writing the book Hardcore Zen for Wisdom Publications, I put some lines in there that were basically repeating what Nishijima Roshi always said about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And the editor there he had a really strong reaction to that. He was like, you can't put that in there because you're not a medical doctor and you don't know the science and all this stuff. And I thought, okay. It just means we have to find a different way. So Nishijima Roshi was fond of phrasing it in terms of the two halves of the nervous system, and I think he has a good point there. But there's also the problem of if you're not a medical doctor, you're not supposed to talk about anything medical, because obviously only somebody who's got a medical degree knows anything about medical stuff. Anyway, that's what people say. I'm not so sure about that, but that's a kind of a problem. So I've had to try to find a different way to express it. But I think Nishijima Roshi is right. Love and hate need to be balanced. And hate, when we say hate, it has this kind of, it's taken on this meaning, especially in the last decade or so, even before that, where it's a very dangerous word. People talk about hate speech and hate crimes and all this stuff. And that's not the kind of hate that Nishijima Roshi is talking about, obviously. He's talking about that tendency to be an individual, to be one among many, to be myself, as opposed to that tendency which is to be one with everything. And one of the things that I think is essential in Zen Buddhism is this is kind of the contrast between Zen and Advaita, the Advaita Vedanta tradition, which I also admire greatly and I talk about a lot. But that their tendency in Advaita Vedanta, I think, is to go a little bit too much into the idea of being one with everything. Probably because that's what most of us need to hear. Most of us are stuck in this individuality, and being pushed in that direction of oneness with everything is probably the direction we need to be pushed in. So in that sense, I think the Advaita Vedanta people are right. But I also think that ultimately you reach a point where you have to strike a balance. So if you go too far into the oneness with everything aspect, what Nishijima Roshi is trying to say in the video is you lose your ability to take action because you're just too much in love. That's too much of the parasympathetic nervous system going, and too much love just makes a person weak and ineffective and unable to do his or her human duty. So you need a little bit of that hate. And again, hate is not hate crimes and hate speech and hate this and that. It is that kind of feeling of being the individual who is against other things. Against is probably a bad word to use, but it's that againsty quality. So, just to confuse you a little more, I wanted to read you a passage from Dainin Katagiri's book, The Light That Shines Through Infinity, and this appears on page 155, and the section is called Depending on Love. And I've read this over a couple of times before I started this video, and I feel like, I'm not sure he's saying exactly the same thing Nishijima Roshi is saying, but he's saying something I think that is quite similar and might add a little bit to what Nishijima Roshi says. So here we go. Amaeru is a Japanese term meaning to express emotional dependence, such as between a mother and child, a wife and husband, or a student and teacher. It is an informal conversational term. The formal term is to love. Expressing emotional dependence doesn't mean having emotional dependency. You express emotional dependence, but you still take good care of your own life and keep it healthy. So that is love. Expressing emotional dependence, still take care of your own life and keep it healthy. Hate, in Nishijima Roshi's terminology. This is my interpretation. Written in Japanese, the Amaeru character consists of two parts. One part represents your mind in the vertical, the other is your mind in the horizontal. For example, if you fall in love with someone, immediately your mind stands up straight and you forget yourself. There is no idea of something called I because your mind is completely occupied by love. That's pretty nice. But this kind of love is really based on selfishness. It's very greedy. We think romantic love is something wonderful, so we always expect to get something beautiful as a result of falling in love. But when you actually love someone, love becomes complicated. You are surprised and you don't know how to take care of the reality of love. Then your mind stumbles, it tumbles over, and all of a sudden selfishness appears, spreading out in the horizontal. Finally, love turns into hatred. But in the second part of the Amaeru character, there is a term of negation above horizontal mind. That means no mind. No mind means going beyond ideas of love and hatred and touching the original core of love. That is the beauty of love. Love based on no mind is to love not just a certain person, it is to love all beings. That's beautiful. It's very important, but it's not so easy. The two aspects of love, selfish love and the beauty of love, are always working together as one, sometimes showing selfish love, sometimes the beauty of love. That is real love. You can use selfish love, but love can't always be selfish because real love is based on both aspects. So real love, to bring it back to Nishijima Roshi's terminology, is based on love and hate. So forget selfish love sometimes and practice love based on no mind. The practice of real love is to attach to neither selfish love nor the beauty of love. And what I would say is, if we were to replace this with Nishijima Roshi's terminology, selfish love would be hate, and the beauty of love would be love, the way he talks about it. And he says that is how you can experience real love. So if you fall in love with somebody, what should you do? Express your love, but don't be obsessed with love. Being obsessed makes you greedy. That is selfishness. I don't mean you should completely deny selfishness. Selfishness is important, so that selfishness would be hate in Nishijima Roshi's terminology. Without selfishness, you cannot love anybody. The question is, how much should you use selfishness? I don't know. There is no particular pattern. Look at your life, your circumstances, the situation around you, society, and the human history of habits and customs, rules and regulations. Maybe those things can give you a certain pattern for how much you should use your selfish love. Selfish love sometimes moves toward hatred, but real love is not love opposed to hatred. Real love is complete freedom. If so, then what does it mean to say you can realize Buddha's world by expressing emotional dependence? If you really share your life with someone, you will touch the core of love and discover the real meaning of love. You are exactly one with another person, and there is warm communication. That is why expressing emotional dependence as Amaeru is important. And he says more than that, and I'll let you go get your own copy of the book and read it if you want to look at that. But I think this is an interesting topic. When you look up the word love in what I did last night, I went through Shobo Genzo. I have it on a PDF, and I was using the search function to look for the word love. You don't find much talk about love, whereas in the Christian religion you have tons of talk about love. So it's real interesting to me to see Buddhist teachers talk about love. And I have some more quotes, but I think this video is already too long, so I'm going to leave you with the beginning of Shinjin Mei, which is called Faith Mind Inscription, usually in English, and it's very old and significant Buddhist poem in the beginning, which a lot of people have heard, goes, "The ultimate way, the Buddhist way, is without difficulty. Just be without picking and choosing. Do not hate and do not love, and it will be utterly clear. A hair's breadth's divergence, and you are as far from it as heaven from earth. If you want it to appear, be neither for nor against." So there you go. I hope I really confused you. Actually, I really do, because I think this is an interesting topic, and if you're not confused when you first hear it, I'm not sure you're getting it. Anyway, at least I was totally confused when I first heard it from my teacher, and I think that's the way we have to be, because we're taught to replace hate with love, but maybe a balance of hate and love is what is really necessary. So there you go. There's your love for the day after Valentine's Day. If you want to support me in my Valentine's Day love, I don't know, if you want to support me anyway, you can go to the URL you are seeing on the screen below, which is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main ways of making a living, and I really appreciate your support. But as always, this is offered for freezels, so you don't gotta pay if you don't want to pay. So we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy. Hey Ziggy, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you give me boobs in the morning? You sure do. Nobody. Hey Zig. Alright. I'll talk to you later. See you, bye.